Cool. So here we are. I'm with Andrew Gessert, Dr. Andrew Gessert. Just a quick intro. You are a chiropractor. You're my chiropractor, as a matter of fact.
Yep, that's right.
And your business is called Pivotal Chiropractic.
Yep.
Where can people find you?
Where can people find me? Well,
Right.
they can find me on my website, www.pivotalchiropractic.com. I also have a Facebook page, Pivotal Chiropractic. I'm also on Twitter as well. But Facebook and the website, that's the easiest way to get in touch with me.
Great.
So,
Okay, cool.
I don't know.
So the reason I wanted to have this conversation is because you and I have talked, extensively about fitness, recovery, health,
Yes.
mindset. It's a big part of our conversations when I come in for a visit,
Yeah.
right? And obviously your work's done a lot for me in terms of recovery and strength, and it's just in countless ways. And then when we were at a dinner party a couple of months ago, I was there with you and also with Katie Curtis, who owns Inspired Video Marketing.
Right.
And I asked you guys, hey, what constitutes a perfect day?
Uh-huh.
And I really liked some of the answers that you gave at the time. So I just kind of want to revisit that,
Right.
chat a little bit about it, see where we go.
I think for me, what constitutes a perfect day is a day where I'm just 100% present from the time I wake up to the time, I go to bed. There are certain things I do throughout the day. I have a routine in the morning that I have to do. Like I get up about 5:30 in the morning, work out about 6 o'clock, 6 to 7. I just make sure I have a really good breakfast, a lot of protein, high-fat breakfast, so eggs and avocados and things like that. And then I try to make sure that I get to work, get to the office with a decent amount of time to be able to get things done. I got to prepare myself to get things done. It's where I need that time to prepare my mind before the day. Whereas when we're working out and you're eating and all of that, you're preparing your body for the day, kind of. So I usually take some time and I'll sit down and, if there's anything around the office that needs to be done, maybe clean up here, do some random things here or there, then I'll sit down. I do some journaling. I'll do some writing. And a lot of the writing that I do, it's in the I am. It's basically like an I am statement. I am, and you kind of fill in the blank, right? And I kind of just let it just flow, and I just write, write like just a page of just some I am statements, and then kind of read them back to myself out loud, just to kind of get myself, just to get my inner voice in the right context, as opposed to, worrying about other things that are going on. I have to run this errand. I got to do this, or I got to go pay that bill, or I got, that kind of a thing.
Interesting.
So
let me get at that in a backwards way.
Right.
What if you don't get to that? How does the day look? How does the day look if you don't get that mindset, that opportunity to do that?
That's a good question. And sometimes the day is fine. It's it's still a great day.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes it may seem like it's a little bit derailed, and for lack of a better term, where if I don't do it, it's not like my day's a complete loss. It's just that, you might have a hiccup here, something that may have been, not a big deal. Like, okay, you just take care of it and move on. It kind of becomes a bit of a roadblock, or it kind of holds you up, from going throughout your day. Like you get that email that you're like, okay, I got to return this email. I got to go talk to this person, or I have to, or I have to go pay that bill, or, that kind of a thing. Whereas before you just, okay, boom, pay it, get it done, and you move on to the next thing and just keep going. Because when your mindset is right, the non-important things don't become so as important. Like minuscule things, they just kind of, okay, you get it done, move on, okay, and it just kind of falls to the wayside. And then you focus on the bigger picture. What is your purpose, or what is what did you set out to achieve for that day?
Isn't it amazing how almost the exact set of behaviors in a day can appear completely different to you internally if your mindset's right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like
you said, I mean, you own a business, you got to take phone calls, you got to pay the bills,
Yeah.
you got to make sure the place is clean,
Mm-hmm.
you got to see patients.
You
and
wear all the
schedule.
hats, yeah.
You got to do it anyway, right? You're going to do it no matter what. But if you come in and the mindset's right, then it's part of that. I don't know. For me, it connects with my larger mission so much better.
Right.
If I frame it with a good mindset to start the day. Yeah.
And I think that for me personally, like the working out in the morning is like the big thing. Like that's the big thing that really kicks it in high gear, because it's just the benefits of just exercise in general. I mean, the benefits are endless, right? I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of benefits to exercise. Getting yourself up early, challenging your body, getting the heart rate up, your breathing rate up, you're sweating. It's good for your mind. You just feel so much more focused afterward because you're awake, your brain is awake, your body is awake, and then you just have that much more energy to take on the day and just keep going. So.
I think it was Tim Ferriss who, you familiar with Tim Ferriss? He originally wrote the 4-Hour Work Week.
Right, yeah.
And he just does a lot of experimentation on himself and also a lot of study and research. He wrote a book called Tools of Titans that I just loved. And it's all these little 2 or 3 page sort of summaries of what really highly motivated, successful people do. Mm-hmm. Whether it's their routine, whether it's their diet, their supplementation, how they approach work.
Right.
And I think Tim was talking about his own morning routine. Mm-hmm. But he said, the first thing I do after I make my bed, which he said is really important, is that I do some push-ups. And that gets me out of my head. Right? Yeah. And if you're a thinker or somebody like I am, and I kind of sense you are a little bit, where you kind of chew things over a little bit, it's good to get out there and be physical. Yeah. Because it kind of resets you.
Right. Because when you're kind of like an analytical person where you just kind of like overthink things, like I do this, I'm guilty of it, where I'll just kind of like analysis paralysis, where I just kind of analyze something to the point where it's like, okay, now I have to do it. Like it's not, I'm willingly making the decision. It's like I've analyzed the situation so long that it's like, okay, I got to just decide, And so when you work out, when you exercise, like you said, you just kind of take yourself out of that situation. So you can't really focus on, all the other things. Okay, I got to do this today. I got to do that today. I got to do this other 5 things today. You're just kind of like, okay, well, you're in the moment there and you're just doing your workout. And then when you're done, when your energy is up, your focus is better. And then you can actually focus on those things you have to do, throughout the day.
It's so interesting that that's a tool. I think you and I probably both got into working out because we like it. Yeah. Right? We want to be fit, dudes, whatever the reasons were. But now I think, still love it, but it's like a tool as part of my toolkit to get in the right frame of mind to live the kind of life I want to live. Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. I use it in that sense too. But also, it helps me better in judo. Honestly, I get stronger, I lose weight, I get better at judo, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm working out for a goal as opposed to just working out just to kind of go through the rat race, the routine of it. It's like, okay, I want to work out because I want to get better at this, but it's also going to help my mind, it's going to help my body, it's going to help me, in the long run.
Yeah, no question about it. And isn't judo kind of that way too? In the middle of a workout, it's very hard to think of other stuff.
Yes, right? It is.
And if you are, even if you're thinking through the first half of the class, as soon as you start sparring, right, then it's very, that takes up all your mind.
I always tell people whenever somebody who doesn't practice martial arts and they're asking me about judo, I always tell them the best workout you can do is doing 3 minutes of randori with somebody. That is the most intense workout. Right. Randori is practice, free practice. But going 3 minutes, whether it's grappling or randori with somebody, is like the most insane workout you could do. I've never been pushed like that before when I do that. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I love hearing that. What's the first in a perfect day when you're not pushed by, having to get your kid to school or family issues, whatever. Perfect. What's the first 15 minutes like for you?
Like on a Sunday morning when I don't have.
Well, if you're deliberate, if you get up and you're deliberate, I think almost anybody can have a monumental day or an enjoyable day on a Sunday or on vacation.
Right. It's easy to enjoy the day. Yeah.
But I'm talking about kind of a regular day. Like you get up and you go, I'm going to be deliberate today and intentional about what I do. How would you set up the first 15 minutes? Just to get yourself out of the
gate. Getting out of my bed.
Do you make your bed? Do you brush your teeth?
When I usually it's because I'm getting up at 5:30. My family's still asleep. Usually, I get up, and the first thought I program myself to think this thought: I am excited for today.
Nice.
Like the first thing, like literally, like I wake up, and as I'm like rolling out of bed, man, I'm excited for today. Like just kind of saying that, hearing it, it just kind of is like, look, man, I can't wait for today. And then that's just kind of that's that first initial step. And then, getting myself together and going to the gym and going out in this blizzard of weather and going to the gym and everything. So,
do you, is it? Are there some other parts of the routine? I have a couple of rituals. I make my bed, and Tim Ferriss says you do it because that's one thing you get right that day, and it's
right.
It's the first thing. But that's probably true. But what I really like is coming back into my room at the end of the day and having that sense of order. Like my room is like my orderly refuge, so I like to have that bed made.
Right.
I'm compulsive about my toothbrush too. I brush my teeth in the shower to save time, right?
Oh, okay.
When I'm done, I have an electric toothbrush. It's very important to me to put it back in the charger. If I leave it in the shower, it still works fine that night.
Right.
But I don't have that sense of order that I like. And it's, I think there's about 5 things I have in my morning routine that I really, if I get them right, then
your day's going well.
I check that box and I move forward from there. It's stupid, but
it's funny how it's just like a little thing like that. And so if you like, let's say you get into the shower that morning and you go to brush your teeth and the battery's dead. What does that do for you?
Well, I don't know that that's ever happened because it usually, it takes a few days for it to get there.
But I say randomly it's not working or it's...
Yeah, let's say it's my beard trimmer, which mine's very old. I have one I like. And so the battery's horrible on it now, right? But that can happen. If I unplug it to plug something else in, and then I get to that beard trimmer, it's unplugged. It's just like, that's such a simple thing. It's so stupid, right? I'm somebody who tries to live very intentionally. And that's just that, like I say, there's that 5 things that you do. And so I want the toothbrush where it belongs, charged up. It's not, I'm not throwing things on the floor when they don't work, but it's just a sense of order. And for me, I'm interested to hear what you say. Like this works in eating. I do my best eating for fitness and health when I don't think about what I'm putting in now, but how I'm going to feel later. Right? Oh, okay. How is this meal going to make me feel in 3 hours or tomorrow? Right? And so that's what that routine is. That's how I set the stage for myself in the morning, right? With those 4 or 5 compulsive things that I sort of do, check it off, and then go out the door.
Right.
So that's what I was trying to get at when I asked you that question. If you have any, you said I love your first ritual, which is you get up and you say I'm excited.
Yeah,
about the day.
I have a couple little things like that where I have to kind of like lay out my clothes in the night before. Like just have my workout clothes. Obviously, I wear the same shirt every day. I have a bunch of these that I would wear, so it's very easy to dress for work. But when it comes to like my workout gear, I have to get it all set up beforehand, so that way I'm not like fumbling around with it, because that would kind of waste time.
Right.
Because like if I get up at 5:30 and I got to be at the gym at 6, I like to have everything there, so I just go and just put it on, and then I can just go downstairs and I can go out the door, get out the door. When it comes to like, I try not to let little tiny things, like if that one little thing, kind of like you were using the example of the toothbrush or the beard trimmer, like if it dies or whatever, I try not to let little things like that get to me, like derail my day, so to speak. But I mean, sometimes little things, they do that. Like if I come downstairs and I'm making some breakfast and it's, there's no clean forks. And you know what I mean? Something like that. Okay, now I got to wash fork, that kind of a thing. Like little things like that sometimes can kind of derail me. And Tammy will agree with me on that. But I try not to let that.
You throwing forks in the kitchen?
Yeah, I'm just like dirty dishes here, and And that's one thing I always do. I always try to. I'm very kind of anal about the kitchen. Okay, I mean there could be kids' toys all over the living room. It could be a mess. And it doesn't bother me. I will step around toys, okay? But when it comes to the kitchen, like for me, it just has to be clean and orderly, like for the next day. So like that evening, I could be dog tired. I could have worked all day, and it's 11:30 at night, and I'm like falling asleep. I got to clean the kitchen. I got to get all the dishes done because I got to have everything kind of in its place for the morning.
Nice.
Because in the morning, we're making breakfast, we're getting the kid out to school, all of that stuff. It's like, things got to be where they are. And when you have dishes from the day before or something like that, it's just, it just kind of derails me in that sense too.
So you're doing some planning. You're getting your workout clothes set up the night before.
to
make the morning easier.
Right.
You make sure the kitchen is clean.
Right.
To make the morning easier. So that's that looking ahead thing. Right?
Getting the kiddo, getting his lunch ready the night before, getting, stuff ready for him the night before. That way we can just be very efficient in the morning, and we're not, like chickens with our heads cut off running around looking for this. That still happens. I mean, come on, you're human.
Right.
You're human, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, where's Grayson's glasses? Like, oh, they didn't put them in his backpack. So, you're kind of looking for different things, and you have these setbacks here and there. But at the same time, though, you have to be able to kind of like work around it. I think that's kind of what life is. Life just kind of throws you curveballs here and there.
Yeah.
Some curveballs are like immense curveballs, very big things. And some are just kind of like small little things like, oh, there was an accident down the road, so the road's closed. Now you got to take a different way to work. That's a bit of a curveball.
You don't want those things to derail you, right? Wreck your day. It's funny, as you were talking, I thought of something I haven't thought of in a long time. In junior high school, I took a bunch of mechanical drawing classes.
Mm-hmm.
And the instructor was just fabulous, just an amazing guy, old guy that had been in the industry for years, just a super teacher. But when we had a new sort of three-dimensional shape to draw, he would assign you ones, and the longer you're in the class, the more complex they got.
Right.
But, in the middle of your paper, that's where you would use your T-square and your fancy pencils and draw this thing. But always up in the right-hand corner, he said, I want you to draw the figure freehand before you do the work.
Oh.
And everybody's like, why? It looks like crap, why should we do that? And he said, listen, I've been in this game a long time. It's not that your drawing will be bad if you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, when you do that, your outcomes are better and the experience is richer because you've done that work ahead of time, right? And so many things remind me of that. If I forget one of my 5 things in the morning, it doesn't derail my day. But somehow, if they're in place, then the challenges that come up later, right?
Yeah.
It's about that mindset thing we talked about. Like, ritual apparently is part of developing mindset.
And I think that also, like, when you're in the right mindset, and this is kind of, going to like the next level, you talk about like the universe and the universe kind of providing and that kind of a thing. And I think that when you're right on the inside, with your mind, I think that that transfers out, to the outside, out into the universe. So I think that, if you're right on the inside, like I said, I mean, things are just gonna be better on the outside too. You'll handle situations better. Your life's gonna be better overall. I think that's a huge thing, and that's a big problem. I think with a lot of people, there's the self-talk isn't healthy talk, or they're very judgmental of themselves or whatever, and then it kind of transfers into their life onto the outside, and then they wonder why. Then it kind of reaffirms that inner talk, right? And then it's a cyclical thing. It feeds off of itself, and it just and so that's why it's so important to kind of work on that inner talk, in my opinion, just so then that way you're better off, on the outside.
That was really brought home to me when I had an opportunity to work with a kid who had been in this cycle in the criminal justice system, and just kept going back and back and back. And I remember sitting and talking to him, and the conversation, he just had this loop in his head, and it was a loop of the things he had done that had caused him to get arrested and to go to jail. And every conversation turned back to that for him. Like he was playing a loop tape, like the Muzak in a hotel lobby.
Yeah.
And the loop was how horrible he was and how he always failed. And he was playing that tape for himself over and over again.
Right.
Didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know how to help him get out of it. And I'm sure he's in jail again today. That's the extreme end, right? The rest of us who are pretty functional, right? We may have, you're
functional.
You're not good enough, or where do we get that? I don't know.
Yeah.
From our parents correcting us, from school, from media, from being a teenager, right? Being around other horrible teenagers, right? There's all these voices that are built into us, and so I think your idea of getting up early and giving yourself a positive affirmation, right? Great way to kind of set it right.
Yeah, and I think just getting up and being up, like when you're awake, like when you're fully awake, there's a difference between just waking up at 5:30 and you kind of just come out of bed and you just walk downstairs and you're trying to sip that coffee or tea and you're trying to wake up, and then you're still even kind of like waking up as you're going out the door. It's like when you're up, you're up, and then it's just so much better. I mean, the day is just so much better.
Agreed.
And, So
what's the framework? Like what's describe a perfect day for me again, a regular day, like a work day.
A regular work day?
What are like 3 to 5 things you absolutely
I got to work out,
Yeah. Okay.
and it's kind of a pain when I can't work out. Like if I'm just sore or just something I can't work out for some reason. It's just it kind of. I mean, it doesn't derail my day, but it's definitely like, I wish I want to work out.
Right.
So working out, eating,
Mm-hmm.
I got to start off with a good breakfast, and then taking that time before I start seeing patients to really just kind of get my mindset right. Okay. And I mean, I'm not really doing like a lot of like, screaming at the top of my lungs and that kind of a thing, like connotations, but definitely just taking a moment to kind of just, okay, how do I want this day to go? What do I want to achieve today? What are some things that I got to get done today? Like I said with the I am statements, I think that I am is such a powerful statement. I am powerful, or I am successful, I am loving, I am caring. It's just such a powerful statement. I am, and then you fill in the blank, with whatever you want. And then when I do that, then those are like the things that I got to do in the morning. Okay. Then I don't really do anything at night. I mean, aside from like kind of preparing for the day, the next day, like I said before, but, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I mean, it's kind of simple in a way. It's not too complex. I don't think that it should be very complex. It shouldn't be like 100 things you have to get done, because then if you miss one of them, you're like, oh, I forgot to do that, or I couldn't do that. I didn't have time to do that one thing. And then it kind of eats at you, and then it becomes a reason why you derail your day.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. That's that self-talk.
And I think that's one of the things that can kind of complicate things, is that people, they think they have to do this, they have to do that, they have to do all these different things. And, really it should just be something simple, at least something that you can do,
Right.
So something that, okay, getting up and working out. Okay. I can't get up and work out, but let's try doing that. Let's start adding that into my day. Let's get up and let's just work out. And we're just going to do some exercise, and that's it. Start off at that point. And then you can slowly add a couple of other things too.
Yep. Once your day starts, you've gone through that part where you have done your we're not calling them incantations, but the things you say to yourself before your patients show up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And getting your stuff in order so they can rock out. I come to you and I see what the routine is like. People show up, you interact with them,
Mm-hmm.
then you treat them.
Mm-hmm.
They go sit in the
They rest.
They
Yes.
rest in the, what's it called? The
Zero gravity chairs, yes.
which are wonderful. And then you got to manage some phone calls,
Yeah.
things like that. But I'm guessing you've got a pretty highly competent routine when the
Mhm.
patient's in the room that you're
Right.
working on them, and I get that. But do you have any attention anchors or things that kind of bring you back to make sure that you're in the room with that patient, like mind
like
and body?
focused, like
Yeah.
like present. You mean?
Yeah. Or just
I don't really think that I think that that's just kind of like a habit that I've built up over
Mhm.
time from dealing with you're just seeing so many patients. You just switch and focus on what's going on with that patient,
Mhm.
and being present with that person. But if something comes up, like if somebody, I don't answer the phone calls, or I don't deal with that kind of stuff if I'm with a patient. But
Right.
if somebody walks in the door or something like that, I may take a brief moment and say, all right, pardon me, just a moment, and then just see what's going on. And then I come right back.
Right.
So I always make sure that I give them my full undivided attention, and even in like the healthcare world, that's something that, a lot of people, they have an experience where they go see like a doctor, some healthcare provider,
Mhm.
and then they're like, oh, he just was in here for 5 seconds and then he left the room or whatever.
And seem distracted.
Right,
the whole
seemed
time.
distracted. He didn't even look at me. He didn't even shake my hand. He just stared at the folder and the paperwork and just started writing. I think that's something that has kind of been lost in the healthcare professions.
Right.
Okay,
Mhm.
and I think that just being able to give somebody that attention, that time a day, like, look, I'm completely focused with you right now. Right here in this moment.
That in and of itself may be a little therapeutic.
Right, exactly.
Because
Oh,
we don't get a
totally.
lot of that from
Totally.
people. But when you're in your routine, my wife calls it steering the feet, right? you turn the feet, and you obviously you have developed your eyes,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Your eyes and your mind to look at the
Right,
person
and even sensitivity with palpation skills and things
Mhm.
like that. Yeah.
So that's going to help keep. I have to look everything through the lens of the martial artist, right? So there's things. The swordsmanship art, iaido, is the thing that's most constructed, and so there's a process of formalization, right?
Mhm.
Of bowing, of doing certain warm ups, of moving into the routine, and it's more like chiropractic in the sense that it's not chaotic, right? It's
Right.
systematic.
Right.
But when you go through that routine often enough with the right mindset and the right breathing, it becomes this mechanism for taking you deeper into that mindset,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
not like, some kind of woohoo mystical. You're not hearing music when you do
Right.
it.
Right.
But it just gets you into that calm, present,
Mhm.
energized but relaxed state of mind. And by going through that same routine, and it's kind of, you go through a routine with your patients,
Mhm.
how many times a day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's part of the attention anchor. That's the thing that kind of keeps you present, is the fact that you're doing a routine that you're
Right.
very
It's
familiar
kind of like, it's like burned into my brain, the routine. And I could almost do it with my eyes closed. I'm not going to by any means, but when you get into the routine, and it isn't just a mundane routine where, you can kind of just, your head's off somewhere else and you're just kind of going through the motions. And it isn't like that at all. You're just, I just, go step by step through the process.
Yeah.
And it makes me, I'm more focused. It just kind of brings me back to just being present, with them and with the patient, and being able to provide them with the care that they need, whatever treatments they need or whatever they, type of an adjustment and correction they need. So,
right. I'm going to want to do another interview. I don't want to make this one too long, but I want to ask you a couple more questions and then kind of circle back and just hit the framework one more time,
Right.
so that when people listen to this, they can kind of hear,
Right.
okay, here's Dr. Andrews, 4 or 5 keys to.
right. So then they look at,
do
they
the
see,
perfect
it's 6 a.m. Dr. Andrews
Yeah.
is at the gym right now.
Well, I just want this to be useful. So
Yeah.
if these things resonate with people,
Right.
when a conversation goes by, you go, that sounded cool. What did you say again?
Yeah.
So the last thing we'll do is I'll just hit that routine
That's
with you
fine.
again. But before we get to that ending part, I want to ask you how you got to this. Like, I know you're in the healthcare.
Right.
It came to me through martial arts, a lifetime of martial arts. How did you come to the idea that you should do something intentional to set your day?
There's a lot of my mentors, they kind of taught, a lot of my mentors when I was going through school, chiropractic college, they would do different things like this to prepare themselves for the day. Just so that way, like I've said before, you're just more present with patients, more present with people. You're kind of, you're not thinking, you're just kind of reacting, and you're in the moment. Okay. And so there's a lot of different ways of getting yourself focused in that sense. I think people have to find what works for them, because what might work for me might not work for you, and vice versa.
Right.
Okay. So I think that, one of those things like a meditation and deep breathing exercises, I would do those as well before. I don't do those as much nowadays, just because I kind of condensed my preparation time. But that's really what kind of sparked my interest in just at least kind of getting my mind right for the day, as opposed to just like waking up and going. Just saying like, okay, let's take some time to kind of work on me. And even just looking at folks like, Tony Robbins and the other types of motivational individuals, how they always say that, you got to have the hour of power, and you got to take that time I don't think you really need an hour, to really get yourself going, but taking some time just to kind of get yourself, in the right state of mind, going forward. And I think that just in chiropractic, because it's a people industry, like you're dealing with people all day long, that you have to be able to connect with individuals, and you have to be able to have a conversation with them and be present. And you can't just kind of, live off in la la land and, not, be present or whatever. So, I would say that's kind of where it all kind of came about, was a lot of my mentors. And these are some of my mentors they had big successful practices. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's what they're doing and they have that kind of a practice, then maybe I should do that too, to, get to where they're at. And so that's kind of where my thinking, that's what my motivation was, in order to really just take the time in the morning to just get myself ready.
Reminds me of that, the cliche about what they say on the airplane, right? If the airbags come down and you're with a child, put your own on first, right? And you have to make sure you take care of yourself, so you have the energy and the presence of mind
to help other
to
people.
take other people.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I totally agree with you on that. You can't help others until you help yourself, and then once you help yourself, then you can be a bigger tool. You can be a bigger, you can help more people, in that sense. So
I like it. I like it. All right. So to summarize, I'm going to say these and then please echo them back. It's
right.
Starting the day with the right attitude.
Right.
You actually say something to yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like say it out loud, like yell it, but just kind of, because my family's sleeping, so it's like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Workout.
Yes.
And that time before patients start showing up.
Right.
You
do a little journaling. I'll talk to myself. I am, maybe some visualizations, just kind of take a good 20 minutes or so and just kind of see how it goes.
Right.
Decide what I want to do.
And then kind of related to that, but it's slightly different, is the idea of setting things up ahead of time, getting your
planning ahead.
The night before, make sure the kitchen's clean.
Yeah, planning ahead, making sure that we're ready for the next day, going forward. So, and breakfast, eating a good breakfast.
Oh, I do want to touch on that, because when you talked about breakfast, you talked about high protein, high fat.
Yeah,
we're coming back to that.
Yeah.
Science is coming back to that finally.
Uh-huh.
In a sentence or two, how should high-performing athletic people eat? And I realize this is not a prescription; everybody's different. But if you said, okay, there's really only one, the best chances of you being very, very healthy, active, motivated, you're going to eat this kind of diet. What would it be?
Well, this in and of itself, this question is like a whole other conversation,
we'll come back
right?
And do this. I'd love to.
I'm a big believer in eating a higher protein, high fat diet. Okay, lower carbohydrates, low simple carbohydrates. And the reason for that is because protein and fat, for one, they digest slower, so it'll give you longer energy, more energy throughout the day. Like if you start in the morning eating that type of a meal. If you eat like a cereal in the morning, like a sugary cereal or something like that, like Lucky Charms or whatever, sugar, your body burns that off pretty quickly. Okay, your blood sugar spikes and then it crashes down. People usually get the crash later on. So with protein and fat, the blood sugar is managed more easily by the body. Okay. Also with a high-performing athlete, whether they're, at the professional level or even just, a person that plays golf on the weekends, eating more protein and eating more fat in your diet, healthy fat. Let's get that straight. So we're not eating like French fries and deep fried chicken wings or whatever. We're talking about healthy fats like avocados and olive oil and coconut oil and seeds and nuts and that nature. But with more protein and more fat, it helps the recovery process. So as you're working out, as you're exercising, lifting, whatever you're doing, you're breaking down muscle. The body needs to repair that muscle. So it can use branched chain amino acids from your protein intake to do that. Fat is crucial for a number of other different types of physiological functions and through the metabolism. So, I mean, that we could just go on and on and on just about that topic in and of itself. But I would say even for an athlete, reducing athletes can get away with things though. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's make that, the weekend warrior is much different than an athlete who, is competing at a high level, like a collegiate athlete or a professional athlete. So they can get away with some things. Like when Michael Phelps was in the Olympics, they were talking about, Michael Phelps eats this many Big Mac, burgers from McDonald's and all that stuff. Well, yeah, when, the guy burns 10,000 calories in a day, he can get away with eating some lousy food every so often, but he doesn't eat that way all the time. I guarantee you that, right? Mm-hmm. But eating lower carbs, low simple carbs, so low grains, low in rices and pastas and things like that, and more complex carbs like vegetables and fruits. That's what I recommend for like the carbohydrate intake, and then lean protein, healthy fats. So, and then like no sugar. I mean, every so often, like to indulge every so often, but for the most part, no sugar. Yeah. I could go on and on.
So, sounds like you're in this sort of paleo, Mediterranean,
yes,
beach body diet kind of thing. Yeah. Which I find I thrive on. So that's
more like the Paleolithic type of diet.
Yeah. Whatever the science is, it really.
Have you ever done like a full ketogenic diet at all? Got yourself into ketosis?
I have, but I don't want to say I have if I don't really know what it is. So could you? I mean, I think I do, but tell me what you're.
So like ketosis is a point where where your body is using ketones for energy as opposed to glucose. So when you eat like spaghetti, for example, right, your blood sugar that the sugar from the carbohydrates is going to go into the blood. The blood sugar level is going to go up. Then the pancreas is going to react by dumping a bunch of insulin into the bloodstream to help bring that sugar down. The way the pancreas brings it down is with insulin. So insulin, and I'm kind of getting complex here. Insulin binds to fat cells and muscle cells, and then that's what causes those cells to bring in the sugar out of the blood and either one, burn it as fat or burn it as energy, or two, store it as fat. Okay, so you can see how this is how the obesity epidemic is getting so bad. Is getting worse and worse and worse is because people are eating these higher carbohydrate diets and they're not burning this energy off. Right. Well, in ketosis, when you cut all that out, those carbohydrates out, and you're eating more proteins and fats, you're not spiking the blood sugar. So you're forcing the body to say, okay, well, we're not going to get glucose for energy, so we have to get it through glycogen. Glycogen is produced by the body breaking down fat. And so then the body breaks down fat to get that energy so that those cells can use that energy to thrive and do what they need to do. But as a byproduct there, then you eventually get into what's called ketosis, where your body will use ketones. And they've actually done research where they find that ketones, the brain actually prefers to burn ketones for energy as opposed to glucose. Okay, there's some research studies. I'd have to find them, but there are some research studies that have said that. So the body actually likes ketones. And so the thing is that it's very difficult to get into ketosis. It takes a while, like a week or so, because you have to cut out all the fun stuff, the sugar and all the carbs and all that stuff, and you have to be very, very strict. And just by eating like one carbohydrate meal can throw the whole system back into its normal, what it was previously. So
yeah. So yes, I have. I'm a human guinea pig, right? I always experiment on myself with supplementation or exercise. After I've been to one Tony Robbins seminar since I brought him up, and one of the things he talked about was what he calls a fat burning diet. So he basically made a very simple description to say what you just said. And
his was much simpler than mine.
Well, because he was talking to 3,000
right,
people.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, look, he says, here's what works for me. I call it a fat burning diet, and basically laid out the way he's a little anti-red meat, which I'm not, but he's basically saying lean meat, nuts, seeds, vegetables, limited fruit,
right, no sugar,
and no processed stuff. And then he also drinks like specially kind of filtered water and all this other stuff. But anyway, so I was pretty inspired. You tend to be quite inspired after a Tony Robbins seminar. So I said, okay, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to go on a fat burning diet. I followed the diet for about 2 years, and was walking around about 20 pounds lighter than I am now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and was super lean. The issue I got into after about 2 years was because I exercise a lot.
Yeah.
Right? I run a dojo, I play golf, I run, I hike, lift weights. I started losing a lot of strength.
Oh, wow.
And so right now, I'm walking around at about 160 pounds now, and I'm at 145-ish.
When you were doing this diet.
Yeah. I just really get weak.
Yeah.
And you notice that on the judo floor, right?
Yeah.
When you just can't, your technique has to be perfect. And so that's the balance that I have to strike. I love being there. It feels great.
Right.
I love being that lean. My stamina is ridiculous, right? I can grapple for hours. I can run.
But the strength was not there.
And the inflammation goes down. I have less pain. Yeah. I think I'm clearer headed. Yeah. So maybe that's what relates to what you said about the brain liking the ketones. So that's the balance for me, is I've got to figure out how to do that and then make sure that I get enough calories.
Right. And it's probably, you probably needed to eat more protein and fat in your diet at that point when you were at that level. And one of the things that's interesting about diets is that there's so many different diets out there. There's paleo, keto, and low carb, no carb. There's so many different variations of diets, and vegan, vegetarian diets, and they all do work. And I think it depends on the individual though, because you'll have some people that they try to go all vegan and they are just miserable. They feel like crap. And then you have some people that go all vegan and they feel fantastic. They never felt better their entire life. And I think it's based on the individual. Everybody's different. As different as we are on the outside, we're just as different on the inside, right? Our metabolisms are just as different too. What I eat, may affect you differently than what you eat affects me differently, right? So I think that's how you can explain how so many people get well and feel great on vegan diets versus carnivorous diets or paleo diets. And so, I mean, it is what it is. I think that people kind of need to experiment, with those as well.
Is there a predictor? Is there a test? Can you look at somebody and go, your family's from, this part of the world, so you should eat this, or you're an ectomorph? Is a predictor for what kind of diets?
Personally, I don't know. Maybe 23andMe, one of those genetic testing, they can kind of determine that, based on, your ancestors are from the Mediterranean area, so maybe you could ascertain that maybe a Mediterranean diet would be better for you. I think that people kind of need to experiment with it. If you're the type of person that eats, grains and pastas and you just feel very bloated and gassy, then maybe carbohydrates are not going to be the best option for you. More, complex carbohydrates would be better for you. If you're the type of person where you eat that same meal and you don't feel bloated or gassy or anything like that, then maybe, that's fine for you. People just kind of have to see what they eat and then see how they feel or how they perform in, their fitness activities or whatever. And then they need to, make a change based on that.
Right.
So yeah, I think that, it's a lot of experimentation when it comes to diet. And I don't think that there's really one solid diet that's perfect for everybody, right? I think that some people need a little variation of a basic diet of a high protein, high fat, no sugar, low carb diet, no processed food. I think a variation of that is what is best for most people.
Certainly, yeah, certainly best for me. And so finally, to loop this back around, I mean, if you get it right, you're going to sleep better, have more energy that's sustained during the day, probably think more clearly. Mood will be better.
Right.
I'm not a scientist. I'm saying these things out loud, right? But I mean, I've seen those things, and healing is better, athletic response, performance is better, right? You get that right, then that whole project of making a day perfect, each day perfect or a special day perfect,
right,
has that in it, right? Is that you're intentional about what you consume as fuel and intentional about your mindset. And then you take your habit set, your routine, right? So those are some of the building blocks for maybe not a perfect day, but having a really good day, reliably, right?
With, what you put in your body, you become what you eat, I mean, you can take it a step further. You become what your body can get from what you eat. So even if you're eating like this crazy healthy organic diet, if your body can't synthesize those nutrients, and we're getting into kind of what I do, but your body can't synthesize those nutrients and pull those nutrients out, then, what good is it? I mean, but, if, like I said, like you are what you eat. And so that's like the first step. And if you eat, a lot of processed foods, then you're going to feel not as great.
Absolutely.
And so,
but very appealing.
All the meditation and all the deep breathing isn't going to help you if your body just feels like junk.
Cool.
So
excellent. Okay, so in a minute or less, who's somebody? You've already mentioned your mentors in the chiropractic world, but in a minute or less, who's somebody that you say, you know what, that person was extremely influential, like they influence who I am today?
Like somebody here, like local, or just?
I want somebody that when I ask that question and you kind of look up in the air and think that it's resonating on an emotional level, like not calculating, not thinking, so and so helped me in my chiropractic, so I have a good career, but somebody that you feel very powerfully about. Who influence you as a human being.
Right.
And I'm compressing this. I just want a short emotional statement. We'll talk again, but so, is there somebody?
In all honesty, I'm being straight with you. You've been a huge influence for me. Yeah. You're not, no, really you have been a huge influence with me with martial arts, and martial arts has been a whole nother avenue for me to harness my focus and self-discipline, even with my son, it's just been great for him too. And I think that's just been a huge thing for me, just adding judo, and it really gives me, instead of just getting up and working out, it's like, okay, well, I'm getting up to work out so I can get better at judo because I want to get better at judo, that kind of a thing. And I think that it's just been fantastic.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Your friendship and with you and Pam, and is just wonderful. You guys have been are wonderful human beings.
Well, that helps me have a perfect day.
Good.
Thanks for sharing that. And I'd love to chat more about how my martial arts teachers have influenced me. Anyway, thank you so much. This has been
Yeah, no problem.
This has been great. It's
Well,
gone.
thank you for letting me give my 2 cents and help out, and thanks for interviewing me.
Yeah, we'll do it again, and
Awesome.
let you see it when we get to
Perfect.
that stage.
Awesome.
Cool.
Good.
Thanks.